Speech off.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm here to do my last book update for October. Hopefully we can do this quick because my battery's gonna die soon. So I decided to go back to the Virgin River read through that I'm doing. Storm Reads just did a read through. I think she finished it last month, and it kind of encouraged me to finish mine just because I've always wanted to finish them, and I read a bunch. So first one I read this past week was Promise Canyon, Virgin River number 11. I give it some 4 stars. The couple was Clay and Lily. Clay is like a vet tech assistant, and Lily likes to work with horses. It was okay. Nothing remarkable. I actually forgot that I had already read this, so kind of skimmed through it. I'm glad I reread it because there's an interesting storyline that starts with Jack that goes into the next one, which is Wildman Creek, Virgin River number 12. I also give this one 4 stars. The couple is Colin and Jillian. Jillian, she kind of leaves a sort of a sexual harassment, I guess, type of thing. And she goes to sort of recoup from that in Virgin River, and she starts like a garden, and she meets Colin, which is he's one of the Reardon boys. I think one of the only ones who we haven't seen find a match, or I think he's the last one. Luke, Aiden, Sean, they're already matched. That's when I was 5. I'm missing one. Whatever. Patrick, I think, is the last one. Does he get matched up ever? Who knows? Who cares? I'll find out. Anyway, I did enjoy these two. They were a nice couple. I wasn't that interested in the talk of, like, gardening. I don't care. But I did enjoy them as a couple. Colin is an artist, too, which I wasn't expecting because he's, like, super into flying his planes. He's in Virgin River to kind of recuperate from an injury, from a huge set of injuries from a plane crash. But yeah, I like this book a lot. But my favorite is the next one I read, Harvest Moon, Virgin River number 13. I gave this one 5 stars. Kelly and Leaf are the couple. Leaf is a single father. This one's actually really interesting because he has a stepdaughter. His wife passed away, and he's taking care of the stepdaughter, even though the stepdaughter has a dad. Her dad sucks, and there's a whole storyline with that. But the stepdaughter has some real issues, which is a really interesting storyline. I think I really only get into romances when there's kids involved because, like, they give the romance a high stake for me. Like, otherwise, I don't care if you break up or not because, like, what makes me care is the kid involved in your relationship. Like, that's kind of what makes a romance interesting for me. It's not just them being all lovey-dovey. I need a plot, and a kid is a good plot for me. Anyway, so Kelly kind of, she's having trouble in her job. She's a chef, and she's actually Jillian's sister, gardener. So she leaves the restaurant she works at after, like, fainting from anxiety, and goes to Virgin River where she stays with her sister, and she starts, like, cooking there and selling, like, canned goods and stuff, and she meets Leaf, falls in love with him, but, you know, the problems with his daughter. I don't know, I really enjoyed it just because I got really into the plot, and there wasn't, like, any... The one time I don't like a plot with children is if you're hiding a child, like, I think it was Angel's Peak, that one with where Rosie was hidden from Sean. I was completely against that, so, yeah. But I do love a story where a kid's already, like, involved, just not if you're hiding it from the dad. Then I don't think the dad should ever forgive you, so, yeah. Then I took a break from Virgin River, and I read The Once and Future Witches by Alex Harrow. This is the same author who wrote The 10,000 Doors of January, which I did not like, but I did like this book. I'll read the description. In 1893, there's no such thing as witches. There used to be in the wild, dark days before the burnings began. But now witching is nothing but tidy charms and nursery rhymes. If the modern woman wants any measure of power, she must find it in the ballot box. But when the Eastwood sisters, James Juniper, Agnes Amaranth, and Beatrice Belladonna joined the suffragists of New Salem, they begin to pursue the forgotten words and ways that might turn the women's movement into the witches' movement. Stalked by shadows and sickness, hunted by the forces who will not suffer a witch to vote, and perhaps not even to live, the sisters will need to delve into the oldest magics, draw new alliances, and heal the bond between them if they want to survive. There's no such thing as witches, but there will be. So, yeah, I enjoyed this book. There's, a lot of, like I said in the description, women's issues. And then the three witch sisters kind of have some, controversy among each other. There's sibling rivalry, family issues, in any other book about sisters who grew apart. It was interesting. And one of them is actually pregnant in this book, so that was an interesting plot. So yeah, there's that one. Then back to Virgin River. I read Bring Me Home for Christmas, Virgin River number 14. I gave this one 4 stars. The couple is Becca and Denny. Denny has been in Virgin River for a while. He broke up with this girl named Becca a few years ago, and Becca decides to invite herself to Denny's hunting trip to kind of see if she can get over him before she gets married to her fiance. I like certain parts of this book, but I did not like the game Becca was playing. But I also didn't like how mean Denny was to her in the beginning. I don't know. I just didn't like the premise of this book. Once, the hunting stuff was over, and I don't know. I kind of, once we got to the Christmassy stuff, I was into it. The town stuff made it interesting, and there were some plots about, children in poor homes and stuff like that was really interesting. But, I just did not like the games Becca was playing. So, by, inviting herself on this hunting trip and, saying that, getting all offended because Denny was, mean to her. Denny was mean to her, but, you're asking for it if you're inviting yourself on a guy's trip, for one thing, and your ex's guy's trip. Come on. I don't know. I just didn't like that, and the problem is I didn't really like her fiance either. It's not really a spoiler to say they broke up. I almost wish I liked him so that I could dislike what she did more, but he sucked too. I don't know. Ultimately, they were okay by the end. I didn't dislike the couple by the end of the book. I just didn't like what she did to get there. I was just Jesus. Just break up with the guy and do it honestly, because this is terrible. But I did enjoy the side plots to this book, so whatever. Then I DNF'd Emily's Wild Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I was not into this. I heard about this one, I remember, through the Currently Reading podcast Indie Press List. Emily Wilde is going into, investigate fairies. It was just very boring, because a lot of it is, her journal and, scientific observations on fairies, and I just wasn't into it. I know there's a romance at some point, but I just didn't care, so I stopped. But then I read another one. This one's like a YA book by the same author, The Grace of Wild Things by Heather Fawcett. I also heard about this one from Katie from the Currently Reading podcast, and then Amanda from, she's not the Currently Reader anymore. She's on the Middle Shelf. I heard about it from both of them. I gave this one 4 stars. I'll read the description. This is apparently a reimagining of Anne of Green Gables. I did not understand why until I started reading the book. So, here's the description. Grace has never been good at anything except magic. Not that anyone believes her. While other children are adopted from the orphanage, nobody wants Grace. So she decides to make a home for herself by running away and offering herself as an apprentice to the witch in the nearby woods. After all, who better to teach Grace to use her magic? Surely the witch can't be that bad. But the witch is that bad. She steals souls for spells and gobbles up hearts. So Grace offers a deal. If she can learn all 100.5 spells in the witch's grimoire, the witch will make Grace her apprentice. But if Grace fails, the witch can take her magic. The witch agrees, and soon an unexpected bond develops between them. But the spells are much harder than Grace expected. And when a monster from the witch's past threatens the home Grace has built, she may have to sacrifice more than her magic to save it. So, first of all, you have to read it to find the Anne of Green Gables references. I mean, Grace talks a lot like Anne Shirley, and there's just some passing references to Anne of Green Gables that you only see if you read the book. That being said, I gave it 4 stars only because it's one of those books. I don't like books where you lose your found family. If you find a found family, you get to stay with the found family. So, like, my first issue with this was in The Great Gilly Hopkins. I was enraged by the end of that book. Like, completely. So like, after that, whenever I see an adoption story, I read till the end to make sure that kid is going to stay with the family, because I refuse to get attached to a family and then have the kid not stay. So I made the mistake of not looking at this book, like going to the end of this book, and yeah, the end is a little ambiguous, but it's very sad. Like, the conflict at the end, it's hard to explain. I can't, without spoiling it, but it's sad, and then I don't understand what's going to happen to Grace after this ending that I can't explain. Really. So, yeah, there was just an unexpected twist at the end that I thought was going to get resolved happily, and it just wasn't. So, yeah. 4 stars because I enjoyed the story itself, but took off a star because I did not like the ending. So, next is Witch of Wild Things by Raquel Vasquez. I can't pronounce this last name. Gilliland? I'm so sorry. And this is a Hispanic last name. Anyway, I heard about it through the Currently Reading podcast Indie Press list. Legend goes that long ago, a Flores woman offended the old gods, and their family was cursed as a result. Now every woman born to the family has a touch of magic. Sage Flores has been running from her family and their gifts ever since her younger sister Sky died. 8 years later, Sage reluctantly returns to her hometown. Like slipping into an old, comforting sweater, Sage takes back her job at Cranberry Rose Company and uses her ability to communicate with plants to discover unusual heritage specimens in the surrounding lands. What should be a simple task is complicated by her partner in botany sleuthing, Tennessee Reyes. He broke her heart in high school, and she never fully recovered. Working together is reminding her of all their past tender, genuine moments, and new feelings for this mature, sexy man are starting to take root in her heart. With rare plants to find, a dead sister who keeps bringing her coffee, and another sister whose anger fills the sky with lightning, Sage doesn't have time for romance. But being with 10 is like standing in the middle of a field on the cusp of a summer thunderstorm, supercharged and inevitable. So, yeah, I enjoyed the family dysfunction in this book. There's a lot of it. Family trauma, dysfunction. These sisters have real issues. The ghost of Sky is really funny. And what else? The romance itself, I wasn't sure if I would like it, just because, generally speaking, when I hear about someone breaking hearts and then, like, coming back to each other, I don't always think that person should be forgiven, but I did not feel that way in this book. I did feel that the sisters' fight should not be forgiven because I was completely not on her younger sister's side. I was completely team, what the heck was her name? What was this girl's name? Sage. I was completely on Sage's side, not on her sister. I already forgot her name too. The only one I remember is Sky, which is a little one. That's crazy. Anyway, I was definitely Team Sage all the way as far as like the sisterly dysfunction. Her middle sister can go kick rocks as far as I'm concerned because she sucks. Yeah. So I completely took a side there, and yeah. Overall, I enjoyed this book. There were some scenes I had to skip because I don't need to be in the bedroom. So yeah. Anyway, there's that one. Then I read A Better Man by Louise Penny. This is book 15 in the Armand Gamache series. I gave it some 4 stars. Can't really talk about it, so there's that. Then back to Babysitter's Club. As I said in my last video, I'm doing like a read through of them because of Sarah from the Bookish Knitter. So I read Dawn on the Coast, Babysitter's Club number 23. I gave this one 4 stars. Dawn goes to California to visit her father and brother. It was interesting to see her life there, but can we stop assuming that everybody in California is a vegetarian and loves tofu? I don't eat anything green. Like, can we stop? Like, we eat burgers, too. Not everybody is this, like, skinny, beach-loving vegetarian. I despise the beach because there's sand. I don't like sand. And I don't like tofu or tomatoes or avocados for that matter. So can we stop? Anyway, I did enjoy the book though. Just not the California stereotypes. They're really annoying me. Whenever we're in California, like all I hear about is food that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. But I did enjoy kind of the back and forth because Donna was considering staying with her dad in California. And it's interesting because I know that she does eventually because I read some of the later books as a kid. Because, you know, there were the first 10 were available to me in Braille or audio. Yeah, it was audio. And then, like, for some reason, we went all the way to the end. And I found some of those in Braille. Like, we're talking book 120-something. So, like, I did know that Dawn eventually moves to California. So I wonder what pushes her to do that. That's why I'm really into this series. Because I wanted to, like, know all these gaps that I missed. So, yeah. And this one, she's kind of grappling with it. And she ultimately decides to go back home. So I want to know what makes her move. Don't tell me. Anyway, then I read Christy and the Mother's Day Surprise, Babysitter's Club number 24. I give this one 4 stars. Christy decides that the whole club should do like a Mother's Day surprise for the parents, give them a whole day off, and take all the kids like on an outing so that the moms have a day off. But it's really funny how like they really emphasize that the dads need to take care of the kids. Because like these books are in the 80s, so like the moms are doing the majority of the work. So, like, they really emphasize that the dads have to pitch in. And in, like, the Barrett's case, when there's no dad because the kids are divorced, Mr. Pike watches the baby because, you know, like, you can't take all the babies on trips. So, it's just really funny. So, yeah, there's that one. Oh, yeah. And Emily Michelle appears in this book, the Christie's family's adopted baby from Vietnam. I thought it was going to be more of a production. Like, I thought we would have this whole excitement about Emily Michelle coming in. I was looking forward to finding out when she comes in, and she's like the end. They just announced they're going to adopt a baby, and then the next day they adopt the baby. So I was like, okay, that's it? Whatever. Then I read Marianne and the Search for Tigger, Babysitter's Club 25. I gave this one 3 stars, mainly because I don't care about Tigger. Like, again, I'm just not interested in animal stories. Just a story I had to get through. He's missing. They find him. Cool. I don't care. Then I read Babysitter's Summer Vacation, Babysitter's Club Super Special number 2. I give this one 2 stars because I don't care about most of the people in it. They go to this camp. I think it's called Camp. I've already forgot the name of the camp. But, like, all the babysitters are, like, junior counselors or counselor CITs. I don't know. some of the babysitting charges that they normally babysit go on this trip. So it's interesting to read their stories. But, like, other than that, like, the rest of the people that they meet, I just didn't care about. So, yeah, 2 stars. It was boring. But had to get through it if I want to read them in order. Then I read 2 American Girl books, the Melody books, because I'm listening to the Dolls of Our Lives podcast. They already started doing Julie books, but those audiobooks are on hold at the library. So I read the Melody ones first. The first one is No Ordinary Sound by Denise Lewis Patrick. I gave it 5 stars. I gave both of these 5 stars. In this one, Melody is going to sing a solo for her choir at, I forget what the day is called, like the holiday, their event they're celebrating, but she's singing a solo, and she starts kind of learning about civil rights because these books take place in the 1960s. And it's 1963 to be exact in this first one, because we hear about the bombing in Birmingham where 4 little girls are killed. So it's really tragic, and Melody suffers some trauma because it happens in a church, and she has to sing in a church, so she kind of loses her voice for a bit. It's really sad, and kind of a hard read. As well as Never Stop Singing, Melody Classic number 2. I gave this one 5 stars, like I said. This is the sequel. She basically wants to help restore this playground that's kind of run down, and, you know, because it's like primarily a black area playground, so, you know, they kind of just let it run down, and she's, you know, her and her friends kind of restore it. It's a really heartwarming book with some hard scenes because we're still, like, in the civil rights era. So yeah, 5 stars. Then I read my last 2 books, Garden Spells by Sarah Addison Allen. I gave this one 4 stars. This is actually a reread. I read this years ago, but I had to reread it because I wanted to read the sequel, which is First Frost. And it had been years since I read Garden Spells, so I reread it. I'll read the description. In a garden surrounded by a tall fence, tucked away behind a small, quiet house in an even smaller town, is an apple tree that is rumored to bear a very special sort of fruit. In this luminous debut novel, Sarah Addison Allen tells the story of that enchanted tree and the extraordinary people who tend it. The Waverleys have always been a curious family, endowed with peculiar gifts that make them outsiders even in their hometown of Bascom, North Carolina. Even their garden has a reputation, famous for its feisty apple tree that bears prophetic fruit and its edible flowers, imbued with special powers. Generations of Waverleys tended this garden. Their history was in the soil, but so were their futures. A successful caterer, Claire Waverly, prepared dishes made of her mystical plants from the I cannot pronounce this. Nasturtiums that aim in keeping secrets, and the pansies that make children thoughtful, to the snapdragons intended to discourage the attentions of her amorous neighbor. Meanwhile, her elderly cousin Evanel is known for distributing unexpected gifts, whose uses become uncannily clear. They are the last of the Waverleys, except for Claire's rebellious sister Sydney, who fled Bascom the moment she could, abandoning Claire as her own mother had years ago. When Sydney suddenly returns home with a young daughter of her own, Claire's quiet life is turned upside down, along with the protective boundary she has so carefully constructed around her heart. Together again in the house they grew up in, Sydney takes stock of all she left behind as Claire struggles to heal the wounds of the past. And soon the sisters realize they must deal with their common legacy if they are ever to feel at home in Bascom or with each other. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book and kind of the magical realism that comes with it. Like their like special talents and stuff. It was really interesting. Sydney is actually fleeing an abusive husband and takes her kid to Bascom. And yeah, it was interesting, the sisterly dynamic, and there's romances for both of them. So yeah. And then First Frost is the sequel. Can't really talk about that too much. I mean, some people do, but I think you need to read them in order. So I'm not going to, but I also gave that one 4 stars. And those are all the books that I read on the last week of October. Today's October 31st. I'm not likely to finish another book today. So yeah, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye.
Speech on. Close button. Stop recording video.